What's happening, guys? Happy Thursday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On this week's show, we're going to get ahead and we're going to stay ahead. We're going to start looking at the world of free agency and its impact on Dynasty fantasy football. And tonight's show is a solo mission. In case some of you don't know, my co-host, the man of the hour, and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair, is in the hospitality industry. And by that, I mean he manages a bar restaurant. And what do bar restaurants tend to do a lot of in December? If you guessed holiday or Christmas party, you would be correct. So Jerry is taking care of business, not podcast business, but business, which is fine. I'd like to kick him in his little itty bitty Jerry balls, because he let me know at about like 2 o'clock this afternoon Eastern time. And had he let me know like yesterday or the day before, I mean, I do have friends, or at least colleagues. I have colleagues at PlayerProfiler. I could have got Evan Ringler on, maybe Johnny Tuma. Hell, I could have swung for the fences and maybe have even gotten the Podfather. But as it is, you're stuck with me. I'm going to do about an hour. So if you're watching on YouTube, if I have time at the end, I'm going to answer some questions, dynasty questions. And again, I'm going to get into free agents, but I've got a little story time for you. So if I'm a little out of breath or a little out of sorts, I do apologize. My wife, my lovely wife of many years, asked me to make some mashed potatoes. I was like, okay. We share everything in this house. We share finances. We share duties around the house, and your boy can cook. And she's like, make some mashed potatoes. So, you got to peel the goddamn things. You chop them all up. You make mashed potatoes. It's not super hard. But when we got done, she had some mashed potatoes, and she was like, man, these are good mashed potatoes. And I don't know if she thought that was a compliment, because of course my mashed potatoes are good. I'm a Southern gentleman. If you can't tell by my accent, the dialect at which I use, I've got some Southern roots in this blood here in Indiana. And of course my mashed potatoes are good. So I took a little bit of offense to that, but the mashed potatoes were good, damn good. At the end, if someone asks in the comments, maybe I'll hit you guys up with the recipe. But yeah, we're going to talk free agents tonight. I'm going to talk about the top 10 free agents in this class from a dynasty perspective. I'm not going to talk Trey Hendrickson. He's a defensive player. You IDP people are cooked. You guys are doing that. But the one thing that will never happen, as long as you listen to the Dynasty WarZone, or whether you watch the Dynasty WarZone on Player Profiler Now Plus, you will never say, man, I wish somebody had told me a month ago to get ahead of this. That's not how I work. It's not how people work for me. If you work for me, you have to be a proactive thinker. We got to be looking 30, 60, 90 days out, the same way you do in business. What's coming up this week? What's coming up next month? What's coming up 2 months from now? What's coming up 3 months from now? And how do we get ahead of that? How do we put together a plan so that we're super successful as dynasty gamers? Because you didn't tune in to a dynasty show in the middle of December because you wanted to get start-sit matchups. You can tune in tomorrow to Sleep, Stream, Stash. Evan Ringler, Johnny Tuma, and I will be more than happy to help you with that. You're a dynasty gamer. That's why you tuned in. You probably already listened to the Podfather and his waiver wire show and his recap show and all of the great shows the Podfather does. You probably have a good idea of who you're starting and sitting. And you know what? It only matters to about half of us. Half of us in our leagues are probably heading to the playoffs. The other half of us doesn't really matter because we're out of it. We're not going to make the playoffs. We don't care. So it really doesn't matter. I don't have any start-sit advice. But this is advice that everyone can get ahead of, especially those that play in leagues that still have trades active. You should be playing in leagues that have trades active, by the way. That's the way that it goes. I'm weird with the trade deadline. I believe that tonight should be your trade deadline as we speak. Tonight should be your trade deadline. Why? Because the playoffs start next week. And actually, I lied. Your trade deadline should be next Thursday. The fantasy playoffs, the dynasty playoffs, should start next Thursday. And it should be weeks 15, 16, and 17. Okay? like good, wholesome Dynasty League should. And you should be able to make any trade you want up until kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern, next Thursday night. At that time, your league should lock. And the commissioner of said league should allow any team with a losing record to make any trade they want with a fellow team with a losing record, i.e. a team not in the playoffs. Playoff teams cannot make trades until they're eliminated from the playoffs. For those very short, from an actual time frame, it's not quite 3 weeks. It's about 19 days. From weeks 15 through 17, there shouldn't be any trades. This is the team that got you there. This is the team that's either going to win or lose you a championship. And part of the reason why I've always invoked this is because that is where teams get blown up and orphans are created. Someone goes all in, and I've seen this in leagues. I've seen this in leagues with fellow content/industry leagues where we all want to win. I'm guilty. You're guilty. We've all done this. We've all wanted to win, and we've probably made some bad decisions. Happens. Totally happens. But people sell out. They mortgage their 26, 27, first, second, every Malik Neighbors, every young, talented, injured player on their roster, and they go all in for an aged veteran, a Devontae Adams and Derrick Henry. While that may or may not get you a championship, it crushes the future of your dynasty roster. That's why I do it. I do it to protect the league, let the chips fall where they may, and it protects people from doing damage to themselves. But if you're one of those people, if you're one of those handful of unfortunate people that did not make the dynasty playoffs, you didn't make fantasy playoffs, and you live in a state where it's legal, you might want to check out Fast Draft.
Pour one out for an incredible best ball season. It was a breakout 2025 for Fast Draft, but now the NFL action has started. That means it's DFS season. That's right. You might think, oh, wow, DFS, I can't win DFS. Oh, but you can on Fast Draft. You just pick any 6 guys, and you put them in a handful of booster spots. There's no salary rubric you have to follow. You're not going up against thousands of killer bots in these tournaments. Oh, no. These are regular people grabbing their 6 favorite plays of the week, and that's all you have to do. And we post the ownership so that you can choose how much chalk you want. There is no drafting. It's called the Quick 6 Super Slam. The Quick 6 Super Slam is the signature DFS contest at Fast Draft. It is changing DFS. We are making DFS great again. So go to fastdraft.app and use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match, and let's go start drafting faster.
So I entered 12 Fast Draft drafts last week, and I wish I could say I made my money back, but I made some of my money back. I think I made 60 or 70 bucks if I remember correctly. Wasn't a great week for your boy. It happens. It was a weird slate with all the Thursday and Friday games, but I'll be back in action next week. I'll be heading back to Ohio, pick my son up from college for the winter break. So I'll be back in those Fast Draft streets. And if you want to join me, go to Fast Draft. You download the app, Google Play, Apple App Store, whatever. You download the app, you sign up, you use the promo code WarZone. That's all caps, all one word, WarZone. It gets you the dollar for dollar deposit match up to 50 bucks. You deposit 50, you get 50. We get to drafting. We make drafting great again, as the Podfather says. I do have a good people, bad tweets for you. And this is actually a good people with a great tweet. And I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time for you guys. And this is fellow player profiler, content creator Chuck Bass, at Chuck F. Bass. And Bass, I'm assuming it's Bass. It could be Bass. At Chuck F. B-A-S-S. I'm going to go with Bass. I'm going to go with Bass. Chuck Bass, like the fish. Not bass like the tone of music. We're going Chuck Bass. And Chuck tweeted out, analytics say go for it. Analytics said we should have paid more taxes to England. Analytics said we should have let the South keep their slaves. Analytics said Vietnam would be a cakewalk. Analytics said The Big Bang Theory was the #1 TV show. Analytics is a liar sometimes. And this goes back to that conversation that Jerry and I were having last week about Detroit on Thanksgiving, and even earlier in the season against Philadelphia, constantly going for it. Analytics are great. Analytics are very useful. I use them in my day job. I'm sure you guys do too. analytics matter, but there is a great article, and I linked it on Player Profiler Now Plus. So if you're listening on audio, you got to go back to the YouTube, Player Profiler Now Plus, find this live stream. It's in the show description. It's linked. It's a link to an article by Michael Lombardi. And the last thing I'm going to do is sit here and read you guys an article. But what Mike does in this article is he does a really good job of explaining why sometimes analytics are good and sometimes analytics are bad. And I love analytics, but Colin Cowherd uses this. It's analytics versus manalytics. And I want an analytical person doing my taxes. I want, because the tax codes, although they change, they don't change as frequently as the NFL. You know, something in the NFL is always changing. The schemes are changing. Things are always changing. And that's why it's hard to just lock in and say it's always analytics. That's why I argue with Jerry. You know, I will use it the other day with the Bears when they played Philadelphia. They were down by 15, they being the Eagles. They were down by 15. Maybe it was 16. No, they were down by 15 because that's where the math came in. And the Eagles scored a touchdown to cut it to 9, and they went ahead and went for the 2-point conversion early. I'm assuming because the analytics said to, and they missed the 2-point conversion. Well, now they're down 9, and that completely changed the way that the Chicago Bears call plays. It completely changed everything. Now, had they scored that touchdown, kicked the extra point, made it an 8-point game, then Chicago just can't run, burn up the clock because they can afford to give it back to you. But I'm sure if you were to get Nick Sirianni in here and we were to ask him, he would say, hey, the analytics say we're supposed to go for it there. I think the analytics are wrong in that case. It's just like I thought the analytics were wrong in the case of the Lions and Detroit. So remember, there's nothing wrong with analytics. Analytics can be great. They can be very helpful in many situations, but it's not an absolute. It's situation dependent. It's absolutely situation dependent. So I thought this was a great tweet to share because it tied into last week's show. Twitter's not been overran with horrible takes lately, at least not that have been presented to me. So because of that, I thought I'd share a good tweet, and it threaded back to last week's show. So as much as I like Chuck's good people, and though that was a good tweet, we still have to give him a little Dana White, because I think this actually pertains to Chuck. It might be a good place for him to wind up.
Federal prison. Federal fucking prison. If you're that fucking stupid and somebody else wants to do it, knock yourself out. There's not enough money in it.
Yep. That's from my boy Chuck, but that was a good people. That was a bad tweet. We are going to move on. So before I get into the top 10, I want to talk about some of the key landing spots and also salary cap. I'm going to go ahead and hit you with a spoiler. Spoiler alert. You know, the Podfather has that really cool sounder. Spoiler alert. I don't have one, so I did my own. George Pickens is my number one free agent as it relates to Dynasty Fantasy Football. I'll get into the why here in a minute, but can Dallas re-sign him? Well, if you look at next year's salary cap, as we sit here today in December of 2025, Dallas is currently $33.6 million over the cap. So what kind of money is George Pickens going to want? $25, $30 million a year? And quite frankly, he's earned it. He is currently, as we speak, he is the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points. And while CeeDee Lamb did miss a chunk of the season because of his leg, he's played a lot of games, and George Pickens continues to ball. And when I get into some of the free agent wide receivers, you're going to realize very quickly this is a 3-man race. I'm going to say a 3.5-man race. Jacoby Myers did not make the list, but he would be, in my opinion, the 4th best free agent wide receiver. He didn't make the list. So what kind of teams have needs at skill position and have salary cap? And when I was doing this research, it blew my mind. Now, the first three teams will not surprise you, as they do not have, I guess you would say, like a preset, locked in Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen style quarterback. You know, they have a rookie Cam Ward, the corpse of Geno Smith, and I think TBD in New York with the Jets. But the Titans, the Raiders, and the New York Jets all have $115 million or more in cap space. So I think they're going to want to be involved in the George Pickens sweepstakes. They can outbid a lot of people. You know, Tennessee's not drafting a quarterback. So Tennessee can splurge on getting Cam Ward a legit number one wide receiver to go along with a putrid offense. Let's just be quite frank. And Tennessee's probably going to be in a position to trade back. They're currently the 101 in the NFL draft. They're not taking Mendoza. Maybe the Raiders want to come up and get him. Maybe the Jets want to come up and get him. They can get some of those future picks. The Jets could be in play. They just got all those picks from the Cowboys and the Colts. So we'll see. But those are teams that have money, but they're not desirable dynasty spots for us. These next handful get really good. These are the teams that round out the top 10. The Los Angeles Chargers at 4, the Washington Commanders at 5, the LA Rams at 6. So not only do the LA Rams have two first-round picks next year, they're in the top 6 in salary cap money. Seattle. Arguably, Seattle and the LA Rams are the two best teams currently in the NFC, and they're 6 and 7 in cap space. The Bengals. This one surprised me, but it kind of didn't. You know, the Bengals are 8th in cap space. They've got Joe Burrow. They locked up 2 wide receivers last year. But then I realized Trey Hendrickson is a free agent, and the rest of their defense is dog shit. So it makes sense as to why Cincinnati has cap space. Pittsburgh also doesn't have a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a pending free agent. And then the spot we want all of the wide receivers to go to, the New England Patriots have the 10th most cap space in the NFL. And then right behind them, 11, 12, 13, Ravens, Colts, 49ers, Broncos, Buccaneers. It's weird that the good teams, the teams that are in playoff contention, have cap space. The shitty teams, Minnesota, New Orleans, Miami, Cleveland, Atlanta, they're in the bottom 8. It just tells you which franchises are well ran and which franchises are not. So there's some great landing spots. And then it gets into positional need and fit. And so what I'm going to do here in just a second is I'm going to give you my top 10 free agents in order. And I'm going to do something I don't do a lot of, a little wish casting. I'm going to predict. That's where the thumbnail. If you go to Player Profiler Now Plus because you want to click on the Mike Lombardi article or you just want to see the thumbnail, my girl Brittany made me look like a swami, like a fortune teller. And when she sent it to me, she goes, "Is this good?" And I was like, I actually laughed out loud. Like I was standing on the production floor at work and I get the alert. I look at my phone and I just start cackling. So head to Player Profiler Now Plus, check out Brittany's handiwork. And while you're there, subscribe and leave this show a thumbs up. So I want to give you guys a step ahead of being a step ahead. And the quarterback situation is very bleak. And there were 3 names that came to mind. And Zach Wilson, Gardner Minshew, and Aaron Rodgers. Carson Wentz but he's 33. He's hurt. And if you're into Carson Wentz, you're just hoping he goes to Minnesota to continue to compete with J.J. McCarthy. But that's why I like Zach Wilson. You know, can some strong offensive-minded head coach or strong offensive coordinator say, hey, let's bring Zach Wilson in to compete with J.J. McCarthy? Doesn't cost much. They got Sam Darnold 2 years ago for $10 million. And Sam Darnold spun that up to, I think, $130 million. So that's why I continue to bring up this name. It sounds crazy. He's a quote-unquote bust. But we continue to see that Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones could be in play for a trade somewhere. That's why he's not on this list, because he's not a free agent. But these guys may get an opportunity because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But if I can think of this, I would hope that Zach Wilson's agent his people are on the phone with the Vikings that says, hey, our guy's an unrestricted free agent. We'd like to come in for a visit. Zach Wilson's 26 years old. He fits that mold, right? He fits that Darnold, that Jones, that Baker mold. The guy who's, played out his rookie contract and been on another team and is ready to quote unquote compete. Just like I said last week about JJ McCarthy having an eerily similar path to Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying, just saying. I brought up Mike Evans 2 weeks ago when I did the show by myself. And Mike Evans, although he's a free agent, I don't know. I think maybe it feels like it's his turn to wind up in another jersey. If you're an older fan like me, you probably remember Andre Johnson from the Texans spent a season and a half with the Colts and then the Titans. He almost made a complete clean sweep of the AFC South, but he didn't. So maybe you see Mike Evans in a role like that, but what does that do for McMillan and Tez Johnson? I'm intrigued. Again, totally free. Rashid Shaheed, unrestricted free agent. Maybe he resigns in Seattle. I just mentioned they have the money to be able to resign him, but maybe he wants to go chase the bag. And a lot of these guys are in that 26 to 30 range. Mike Evans not included. This is the second contract from what I've always read and heard in podcasts is where you should chase the bag, right? You should forget about chasing championships. It's the third contract. If you're talented enough to get a third contract, you should go out and chase a bag. Well, maybe that's what Rashid Shaheed does, but that was always the reason why I was never concerned about Torrey Horton. Still big on Torrey Horton, and I will continue to be. Jacoby Meyer, I think it was a rental, and it's working, to be quite honest. I think they being Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, do not have a ton of confidence in Brian Thomas Jr., plus he's been banged up. Travis Hunter out for the season, and maybe, just maybe, Meyer stays. I don't know. And another name that could be moved in a trade this offseason, Brian Thomas Jr., to be determined. You know what? If people are sleeping on the value of Travis Hunter, I'm in on Travis Hunter. Romeo Dubes. And guys, we know it's Dobbs. Jerry called him Dubes last week. It's been a running bit on the show since he was a rookie. Romeo Dubes, though, just another reason why I'm in on Jaden Reed. I don't think he's ever going to be a 1, and he's probably not going to be a 2. And he's just a guy, but he will be removed potentially from that Packers locker room, freeing up space for maybe Michael Golden to take a step forward, or Jaden Reed to maybe stay healthy and break out. Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's going to be a free agent. We're not getting Nick Chubb. We don't want Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is 30, multiple major knee injuries, but this means Woody Marks. You look at the Texans. What does that team want? They want big name defensive players. Their defense is awesome. Houston's probably 1, Denver's 2, maybe vice versa, whatever you think, but it's really good defense. And they're going to want to run the ball. I think Woody Marks is the guy. If anything, he'll be the 1A or 1B, and just a name I think you can get in the offseason for 2026 seconds. And if I can give up the 204 for Woody Marks, I'm in. It is a strong free agent running back class-ish, but not going to let it get in the way. Tyler Algier. He barely didn't make this list, by the way. He is number 11. He almost made the list. I think this guy's going to be a starter next year, and I think from a fantasy standpoint, he's going to make an impact. Isaiah Pacheco, I always wanted to believe. I think he's more of just a jag. Dallas Goedert, 30 years old, free agent. But for whatever reason, Philly's got $25 million in cap space. Maybe he stays, maybe he doesn't. Here's one that's very interesting. Cleveland, $9 million in cap space. David Njoku, for whatever reason, been in the league longer than Dallas Goedert, younger than Dallas Goedert, not even 30, 29 and a half years old, and he's a pending free agent. I don't think Cleveland can afford to sign him, so not only could David Njoku wind up in a really nice spot, but that means Harold Fanning Jr. He's not been producing a bunch. He had a nice touchdown last week. He is still cheap. You wait and see. You mark my words. You write this down on December 4th, 5th, 6th, whenever you consume this show. David Njoku signs in a different spot, the rest of the dynasty world is going to go get Harold Fanning. Too late, dummy. Go get him now. Harold Fanning, not only is he the future in Cleveland, David Njoku, the one guy stopping him from being dominant, is a free agent. He goes bye-bye. Tyler Higbee, who does that mean? Tyler Higbee, 33 years old, has had a better NFL career than a fantasy career, better than a dynasty career, but it's my boy Turd Ferguson. They drafted him in the second round, and I know what you'd say, hey, with Higbee being on IR, wouldn't this kid have gotten more opportunities? Maybe, but what if he's a rookie and not every rookie tight end is Brock Bowers or Tyler Warren? I mean, it's great to see Colston Loveland coming along later in, the season, but even he didn't start off hot. Again, a name I like I've done before with guys like Brenton Strange and Theo Johnson. Both guys having nice seasons. I think that's the next guy. Terrence Turd Ferguson is a name to know. Zach Ertz, 35-year-old Zach Ertz is going to be a free agent. Maybe Ben Sennett's a thing. Maybe he's not. But, he's free. He could even be on the waiver wire. He could be more of that Durham Smythe ilk where he's more of a blocker and never really a pass catcher. But when a guy's free, and in most of our leagues, a lot of us play tight end premium. We carry 25 roster spots. I think he's in his second year. I don't think he's quite in his third year yet. I'm 95% sure. You could put him on the taxi squad until your league rolls over. Ben Sennett, a guy that I'm looking at from a future perspective. Isaiah Likely. I hear everybody out there crying the blues. Oh, Mark Andrews got extended for 3 years. Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Isaiah Likely is an unrestricted free agent. Isaiah Likely could go take a replacement role for Travis Kelce. Does it happen? Maybe. It's probably more likely that it doesn't, but it could happen. Maybe he goes to Miami where they've used big athletic white tight ends in the past. Maybe. So if you can use this news of everyone boo-hoo-hoo, Isaiah Likely, he, going to get stuck behind Mark Andrews, not if he chooses to go ply his trade somewhere else. A lot of tight end needy teams out there. A couple of nice tight ends in this upcoming class, not crazy. Maybe he replaces Cade Otton. Cade Otton's a free agent in Tampa Bay. And I think Cade Otton likely stays and just kind of stays like a tight end two, a bye week replacement guy, an injury fill-in guy, a situational guy. But 27 has had good stretches. I like him. And then I threw Noah Fant on here almost out of obligation because he's so talented. He's only 28 years old, but he's on his third team. But Mike Gesicki's under contract, and Mike Gesicki's back. So I like having those veteran tight ends. I'll be very curious to see what Cincinnati does with the offense in the offseason. I'm going to go ahead and jump into my second commercial spot, and then I'll be right back with the top 10 free agents, and then we're going to do a little fortune telling, a little predicting of where they go right after this.
I know your sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops, because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 Frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun, and as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
All right, and I am going to start talking faster because I do want to save some time. Some of our patrons have sent me some questions. I said I'd answer them on this live stream, so I'll try to get to those at the end. So my top 10 free agents, my top 10, 1 through 10. Number 1, I've already spoiled it earlier in the show. George Pickens. It's clear as day it's George Pickens. Do you know who's the youngest wide receiver free agent in this class? It's Jalen Coker. Jalen Coker is a free agent. I don't remember if he's unrestricted or restricted rights, but he's a pending free agent. He's an exclusive rights free agent, and that gives Carolina the opportunity to match up to whatever. And if not, he can go to a different team. There's another free agent type. One, you have to give the other team draft compensation. End of the day, George Pickens is the second youngest wide receiver. He's currently 24 and a half years old. 24 and a half years old, playing out of his gosh darn mind. And he's going to be, from an offensive side of the ball, he's the pick. He is the belle of the ball. He is the one that every wide receiver team will line up to go get. George Pickens, from a dynasty and a real NFL offensive standpoint, is the number one free agent in his class. Number two is Breece Hall, and especially for dynasty, and double that if you're in a one QB league. In a one QB league, we all know the value of the running back position, and we all love Breece Hall. We love Breece Hall coming out of Iowa State. We've loved him at times with the Jets. He's been hit or miss this year in a horrible offensive situation. I pray that because the Jets don't have the money, I pray that they don't franchise tag this poor guy and keep him in New York for another year. I pray that he is able to hit the free agent market and can really have that, 25, 26, 27-year-old season the way that we've seen Jonathan Taylor over the last couple of years. Love Breece Hall. I think he can have a mid-20s, just I don't say breakout, but just an explosion for us as dynasty gamers. This next guy needs to stay healthy, but he is a pending free agent, and I should have mentioned his sidekick, but I didn't want to spoil all of the top 10. Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, when healthy, is a dog. He's more involved in the passing game than Zach Charbonnet. He's more of a three-down back than most people realize. The only knock on him is, A, he gets touchdown vultured by Zach Charbonnet, another name that you need to be going and getting before people realize that, at least for the months of March, April, and May, he's the starter in Seattle. Not that they won't bring someone in or, draft someone, but I injury issues aside, I've always been a fan. The dude is a dog. Number 4, this guy, when I do the predictions of where he lands, I would love for him to be able to go to a spot that he can, really help a contending NFL team and play in a great offense. But this guy's 28 years old, but he's had 2 very good seasons back to back. But at 28 and at the running back position, he's got to chase a bag. And that's Uncle Rico Dowdle. Had a very good year last year for Dallas, is having an on and off, at one point, a really, really good season for Carolina. Maybe they bring him back, but they've got Chuba Hubbard under contract. I love Uncle Rico, but again, he's 28. He's got to go where the money is. But he is my free agent number 4. Number 5, and I could have flipped these guys because of the age difference between Travis Etienne and Rico Dowdle. I've always liked Travis Etienne. I've kind of always been opposite the market. When he came out and had all the steam coming out of Clemson and then got drafted with his college teammate, Trevor Lawrence, I wasn't necessarily a fan. And then he had a really good year 2 years ago, and then he faded last year. And then now he's doing okay. And it's like the steam came off of him. And he's a solid pro. He'll hopefully wind up in a good spot and can give you another, again, kind of like I said about Breece Hall, he can give you 2 or 3 years of really solid dynasty and fantasy point production at a pretty cheap price. I'm throwing out 26 seconds for this guy all day long. Javonte Williams. Now, I'll get to the prediction here in a minute, but Javonte Williams is finally became what we always thought he could become in Dallas. And why is that? They've got a very good offense. The defense is getting better, but it's been mostly mid, and he's been injury-free. And what do you know? Voila, he is having the season we thought he could have coming out as a rookie out of North Carolina. Dude is a stud, and when I get to the predictions, I'll explain those here in just a minute. But dude's playing well. And again, we play Dynasty in 2 and 3 year arcs. So Javonte Williams could be a great RB2 on a contending Dynasty roster for a couple of seasons. Could be a nice bridge until you're able to add, or maybe you draft the next guy who breaks out. So Javonte Williams is there at number 6. Number 7, Wandale Robinson. crazy that this guy has had multiple back-to-back 100-plus target seasons. Wandale's already got 100, and he's probably going to wind up with 140 or 150. Now, I think this guy will be sought after. Not a fancy name, but a name that I love, a name that I absolutely love for teams that don't need a one, but it's a high-powered offense. They pass a bunch, and he's the opposite of what you have. Wan'Dale Robinson, I really kind of low-key hope he stays. I'll get into the predictions here in a minute, but Wan'Dale Robinson is my 7th best dynasty, soon-to-be free agent. Number 8 is my guy, the Colts, Alec Pierce. Again, I would love to see him continue to get some volume and continue the breakout. Still leads the NFL for the 2nd season in a row in yards per reception. This guy just needs that volume. I have him at 8. I tried not to be a homer. I'll get into a prediction for him here in just a little bit. And I would love for the Colts to re-sign him. I think he's an integral part of the offense. He's faster than he looks. He's a big body guy. He gets downfield. I think Alec Pierce brings everything to an offense that DK Metcalf does without all the drama and headaches. The problem is that he's getting ready to cost in that DK Metcalf role, that price tag. So we'll see where Alec Pierce, because again, I mentioned, the Chargers. I don't think they'll be in the Alec Pierce business, but they'll be interested. This next one will surprise you, but I still think he's a very talented back, and he's young. Again, I'm looking for these guys, and what do all these guys have in common? Not so much Rico Dowdle, but especially Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, and now Rachaad White. They're guys in their mid-20s that I can get 2 to 3 really good seasons out of as a dynasty GM, especially a contending GM. Now, and again, I would borderline throw Tyler Algier on this list as well, because mid-20s, they're going to get a 2 to 3 year contract. And, for every Miles Sanders that's a bust, you get a Chuba Hubbard that has a good run. It's landing spot dependent. I'm not going to beat these guys up for chasing the money, but I think Rachaad White is my number 9 pending free agent for Dynasty. And then number 10, you could bump this guy up just a little bit if you were in a tight end premium league. But he's the best tight end on the board, and gang, he's 25 years old. How has this guy been in the league for 5 years and is only 25 years old? And that's Kyle Pitts. Came out with all the fanfare, all the hoopla as a rookie, and just had 1,000-yard season and then just disappeared. I think in the right offense, and like Kyle Pitts, it's not the landing spot that I predicted, so it won't ruin the prediction part of this show. But Kyle Pitts in a Kyle Shanahan, obviously they have Kittle, but what I meant to say was Sean McVay. You imagine Kyle Pitts in that offense with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. And you're thinking, but Memphis, he's been in an offense with Drake London. That's true, but he's never been in an offense with Sean McVay. And you know what? The Rams got I'm going to round up, $89 million to spend in free agency. We just saw the Ravens pay $13 million a year for, fair or unfair, a more proven commodity in Mark Andrews. So if they can sign a guy like that cheap, I think that'd be a nice spot. So that's my top 10. I'll read them off in order. I often get beat up in the comments that, hey, when you do a top 10, can you slow down a little bit so we can get them? All right, write these down unless you're driving. If you're listening to this on Friday or Saturday and you're behind the wheel of a truck or whatever, don't do that. But if you're at home, you're watching on YouTube, grab a pen, grab your notes app. Here you go. George Pickens, number 1. It's not close at the wide receiver position. It's Pickens by a mile. Number 2, pending free agent, Brees Hall. Love the talent. Love the guy. I've always been a fan. Brees Hall, number 2. Number 3, KW3, number 3. Kenneth Walker, the 3rd. Again, big fan. Please, can we just, I want nice things. Can we have 2 to 3 years of just, I don't need 17. I'd love to have 17 games a year, but can I get 15? Can I get 3 seasons of 15 games where Kenneth Walker plays at a Kenneth Walker level? You guys are going to like my prediction for him, maybe. My number 4 pending free agent, Rico Dowdle. 28 years old, but again, I think he can give you 2 to 3 really good dynasty seasons in 26-27. Travis Etienne. You could flip him and Uncle Rico, but I have Travis Etienne at 5. Number 6, Javonte Williams. If Javonte Williams did not have the injury history, and his is more tragic. I know what you'd say, Memphis, what about Kenneth Walker? He's had injuries. Not like Javonte, has had injuries. His look largely behind him. They're of a similar age. If you wanted to put him higher, that's fine. But Javonte Williams, number 6. Number 7, Wan'Dale Robinson. Again, low-key sneaky guy. Just going to give you 100 targets. And I would love to see him pair. I would love to see him in an offense. What do you know? New York, Jackson Dart, there's your quarterback. Malik Neighbors, there's your Justin Jefferson type. Can Wan'Dale Robinson just be the number 2 in a really good offense? Can we get Jackson Dart a really good? You know who I want? If you haven't heard this before, I want him to get Gruden. I want the NFL to let Gruden back to coach. I want Gruden to drop his lawsuit. I don't care if he does or doesn't, but if that's what it takes to get him back in the league, I think Gruden with Dart and Neighbors and Robinson and Theo and Cam, man, what a fun story in the Big Apple. But he's number 7, Wan'Dale Robinson. Number 8, Alec Pierce. Hope he stays a Colt. Probably won't stay a Colt. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Number 9, pending free agent, Rachaad White. Love the talent. We've seen him produce as an RB1, and if he can give us 2 to 3 really good seasons of running back production the next 2 to 3 years, I think it's good. And people are not necessarily high on him. He just lost the starter's role. Bucky's back, and if you're Rachaad White, you got to try to get out of there and get a chance to get a feature role. If I had to, think, hey, who has the most likelihood of being the Miles Sanders, it would probably be Rachaad White, but I'm still interested. And then number 10, my number 10 pending free agent tight end Kyle Pitts. Again, guys, 25 years old. That blows my mind that he's been in the league for a 4-year rookie contract. They held the 5th-year option. He's going to be a free agent. Good for him. Hopefully, he's made money, unlike a lot of these guys on this list. He's made money. He's made first-round money. He's made top 5 money. Remember, he got picked over Jamar Chase. He got picked over Penei Sewell. So that's where he's thought of. So he's made money. So hopefully, unlike some of these other guys, he takes a shorter contract in a better situation and chases his, big bag of cash in 3 years. But Kyle Pitts, number 10. Now, let's do something I don't normally do. That's Wishcast. I don't find it productive, but it's fun. It's the holiday season. So let's have some fun. This is where I'm putting on my crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball. I got a Colts hat and a microphone. So that's what I got. But my number 1 pending free agent, George Pickens, you are a New England Patriot. New England Patriots, they have the money. New England is they're number 11. They've got $62 million in payroll. They can afford him. And someone out there is going to go, but Memphis, they're going to trade for A.J. Brown because he knows Mike Vrabel. No, they're not. Why would you give up this essentially about the same amount of money? A.J. Brown's not going to be making much more, if more at all, than George Pickens after this upcoming free agency period. So why would you give up draft picks on top of the money and dealing with a headache? It's no secret that George Pickens can be a knucklehead, and he can be a lot to deal with. Although he's been great in Dallas, he's been on his best behavior, and I don't blame him. Dude wants to get paid. Mike Vrabel, the Mike Vrabel connection's valid. Mike Vrabel can handle strong personalities. And George Pickens in this offense with Drake May, that would be a godsend. That would be an absolute godsend for Drake May and George Pickens. You're the clear 1. good quarterback, offensive coordinator. We've seen Josh McDaniels make so many wide receivers. In some cases, the wide receivers make the offense, but we saw how he used Randy Moss. George Pickens in this offense with Drake May should have you salivating. I don't think they're giving up multiple picks to go get a pain in the ass. Let's just go pay a pain in the ass a lot of money and go get George Pickens to New England. Number 2, Breece Hall. You are a Chicago Bear. You are a Chicago Bear. You're as close because the Bears are doing really good, right? They're the current, tickle me surprised. The Chicago Bears are the current number 1 seed in the NFC. That's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. If I had told you at the beginning of the season, hey gang, we're going into the week 14 matchup, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams are leading the number 1 seeds in the AFC and NFC respectively, you'd have thought I was full of shit. And you may anyway, but I see Breece Hall as a Chicago Bear. You know, they have some money. They did spend quite handily last year in free agency. I think you get rid of DeAndre Swift, you go with an upgrade, and you could make Breece Hall as close to Jahmyr Gibbs as possible in this upcoming market. I don't believe there's a Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. I think Jeremiah Love's a better prospect than Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's not a Jahmyr Gibbs type player. I think Breece Hall, and I always butcher this guy's name, but if you've listened to the show, you know that's kind of a hobby of mine. Kyle McGonaghy, whatever the hell. I think that would be a nice Montgomery Gibbs-esque combo for Ben Johnson. I think it'd be good for Breece Hall. We know he's had the knee injuries. He's had some injuries. Let's get this dude back on natural grass like he was, I think he was in Iowa State, excuse me. Let's get him on, natural grass. It's a better turf, a better surface. And man, Breece Hall and a Ben Johnson offense. I heard Ben Johnson called the Kyle Shanahan of the new coaches because of the way he likes to run the ball, and I can't unhear it. Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, I butchered this, but there's no editing. Kenneth Walker III, you are a Pittsburgh Steeler. And out of all of these guys, he feels like a Mike Tomlin style running back, and they need a real running back. Nothing against Jalen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell. Let's get a guy that we can ride and build an offense around. I'll be curious to see what Pittsburgh does with the coaching staff. There continues to be rumblings that Tomlin could be gone. Harrison on his podcast turned his back on Coach Tomlin and said he wasn't a very good coach. But I think Kenneth Walker played in the Big Ten, feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler. This next one is a 100% bag chase. This is 100%. I got to get my money. I got to get paid. I'm 28 years old. I'm Rico Dowdle. I'm going to take the money from the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, they go out and they get in the Rico Dowdle business. How do you help a young running back? How do you help a young quarterback? You give him a running game. Look at what Ben Johnson has done for Caleb Williams. They pound the ball with the run. And I think a smart head coach, a smart offensive coordinator will want to do that for Cam. Rico could sign like a big 2 or 3 year deal, get that, life-changing money contract for him. I think it's a win-win for them. I don't think it's a huge win for us as Dynasty gamers, but that is my prediction. Rico Dowdle, you are a Tennessee Titan. Travis Etienne, my number 5, you are a Minnesota Viking. You are going to go to Minnesota. You are going to allow Kevin O'Connell to replace Aaron Jones with a younger, faster version. They're going to pair you up with Jordan Mason. They're going to get into that ilk of pounding the ball, whether it's J.J. McCarthy or whoever they bring in to compete with him for the starting quarterback job. Again, how do you help a young quarterback or a quarterback on the mend? You give him a running game. Travis Etienne, you are a Minnesota Viking. Javonte Williams. Now, I will say this because you have to have fun, right? If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it fun. Now, I believe Javonte Williams re-signs with Dallas, but I think that's boring. So we're going to give Javonte a non-Dallas landing spot. And because, surprisingly, Cincinnati has all this money, Javonte Williams, you are a Cincinnati Bengal. You're going to go to Cincinnati. You're going to help Joe Burrow. I think they'll keep Chase Brown around. Again, I think we're just going to continue to see more of these tandem running backs. The days of Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry pounding the ball, owning the entire backfield are over. So Javonte Williams, you are Cincinnati Bengal. Alec Pierce, I do have him down. The Colts are 12 in cap space, $58 million. They can clearly afford to pay him. But again, that's no fun. I don't know where they'll find the money because Detroit only has $16.5 million. But Alec Pierce, you are a Detroit Lion. That's right, Detroit Lion. I'm not doing that because I like Jerry. I'm doing that because when you build a wide receiver group, you build a basketball team. You look at a basketball team, they're not all the same height. Your point guard's shorter than your center, than your power forward, than your shooting guard. You got to have a team. You got to have different options that run different routes and do different things. Alec Pierce would be a beautiful number 2. I think it would sink him from a dynasty perspective because of Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs, but that's just the feel. You could have also thrown the Buffalo Bills on here. The problem with the Buffalo Bills is they ain't got no cash. They don't got no cash. So if you don't got no cash, you can't play in free agency. That's kind of the downside. Rachaad White. I know when I did Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, you were like, can we not give someone to the Kansas City Chiefs? Rachaad White, you are a Kansas City Chief. I think this is perfect. I think they may re-sign Kareem Hunt for another year. They may bring in a bruiser. But I've been playing Dynasty and fantasy football for a long time. And before we had Christian McCaffrey and before we had Alvin Kamara, one of the original PPR, points per reception monsters in this league, and it was part of an offense that got Andy to multiple NFC championship games and to a Super Bowl, was Brian Westbrook. And I think Rachaad White could play a Brian Westbrook role in this offense, be heavily involved in the passing game, and I think this is a great fit. Kansas City, when you have a quarterback, you don't have a lot of money. They're currently $31 million over the cap next year, but Rachaad White's the kind of guy I see getting like 2 years, $8 million, something like that. I hope for his sake maybe he gets more. And I have these out of order, so I apologize. Wan'Dale Robinson, who was my 7, should have been ahead of Alec Pierce. I think he likely re-signs with the New York Giants. They have money. They have the rookie quarterback. He's had a good connection with Jackson Dart. Give the man some money. Keep that thing together. But I got to put him on a different roster because that's what we're doing. We're having fun. Wan'Dale Robinson, you are a Denver Bronco. That's right. Denver, you got the quarterback on a rookie deal. They've tried wide receivers in the draft. Pat Bryant maybe takes a step forward next year. I mentioned last time, Cortland Sutton, he's locked in. His contract is what it is. His role is what it is. They've tried this short to intermediate passing game, and I would love to see what Sean Payton can do with Wan'Dale Robinson in this style of offense. It's kind of what I wanted Sean Payton to do with Marvin Mims. That's never really materialized. If we can get Wan'Dale Robinson 100-plus targets in the Sean Payton offense with Cortland Sutton and R.J. Harvey and Bo Nix, and it's just he would have a great opportunity. Man, I think that would be a big win. So I got those out of order, but Wan'Dale Robinson, you're a Denver Bronco. And then last on the list, I do have 2 bonuses for you, by the way. Kyle Pitts. There's rumblings that Mike McDaniel will keep his job in Miami. And before he got injured, we saw Darren Waller having a great start to the season, coming out of retirement. We saw, Jonnu Smith in 2024 have a breakout tight end season. Kyle Pitts It's going to happen. You're going to resurrect your career. You're a Miami Dolphin. You're a Miami Dolphin. Now, there's other places that he could go, but man, that Miami Dolphin situation for a big athletic tight end like that, it's weird. It's almost like they had Mike Gesicki, who was one of the most athletic tight ends in the history of the NFL, at least from a combine perspective, just a few years ago, but that's neither here nor there. I do have two bonuses for you because, once I started playing the game, I wanted to do more of the game. Jalen Coker, I talked about how young Jalen Coker is. He's 24. He's barely 24, and he's going to be an exclusive rights free agent. But Jalen Coker, you are likely to be a New York Giant. I also, and that's if Wan'Dale were to go. Jalen Coker could be that Wan'Dale Robinson replacement, but I also put Jalen Coker, you are a Washington Commander. Washington, they continue to try to put pieces around their second-year QB and their fifth on this list in money to spend. Debo getting up there. By the way, I didn't put this on the futures list. Chris Rodriguez Jr., Austin Eckler, both free agents to be. Doesn't mean that Bill's going to be a thing. One of these running backs could be a Washington Commander. But you know what? If you can get free Bill and throw him on your taxi squad, because Bill, you got to dodge bullets. You got to dodge free agency because they got money to burn. They've got almost $100 million in Washington. And that's an owner and a front-end group that will spend and will make deals. So Washington could be in play for one of these running backs as well. But if Bill, they want to give him the second year because they want to improve their defense or other areas, Bills may be a thing. And then my final guy, because he's not a free agent yet, but I think he'll be a free agent because, whatever reason, I think Brandon Ayuk, you are a Buffalo Bill. Brandon Ayuk will be able to count all that guaranteed money that the San Francisco 49ers paid Brandon Ayuk last year, tore an ACL, making that money this year. They're going to go after him. He's likely to be on the market, and Buffalo needs a wide receiver. Buffalo can't afford to get splashy. We know wide receivers in free agency the last 4 or 5 years as the cap has went up, they've been getting the bag. Well, Brandon Ayuk could be available. They could work something out where they work out a contract and they work out a trade. But Brandon Ayuk will not be a Niner in 2026. So there you go. It's a little free agency prediction. I'm wearing a Colts hat, but I put on my Swami hat and did a little fortune telling for you guys. I do want to answer a couple of questions from the chat, and it's from David Donaldson. Dave is one of our patrons, a long-standing patron over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I said in our group chat, hey, get in the YouTube chat. I'll knock out a couple of questions. And David, he's my buddy David. Am I crazy for wanting more than a late second and a jag for Davante Adams on a middle standing team? He is the wide receiver 5 and should be solid. Yes, David, you should want more. You should absolutely want more. I don't know that you'll get one. I would look to see, I would want one of these guys. But if you want to go up to my list of like names that I'm looking at, I would rather do this. If you're not contending or you're not going to do anything, give me your contenders first, and I'll give you a non-contender second. Because in this draft class, I don't think it's super strong, especially in superflex. I think it's Mendoza and TBD. So I'll give you a first, you give me a first, and then I'll add a 27 second. We can haggle something out. But yeah, I'm not taking a jag. I'm a firm believer that championships have value. And no, I don't think Davante Adams should be Devontae Adams. I always get Devonta Smith and Davante Adams. I jumble them up into one guy sometimes. But yeah, I'm going to be like, look, what's a championship worth? He's not going to stop being Matthew Stafford's favorite target. And if I remember correctly, his schedule down the back half is pretty good from both an opponent standpoint, meaning they'll be competing. I know they've got at least the Niners. They've got the Seahawks. You know they're going to be in some dogfights. So, yeah, you're not crazy to want a little bit more than a late second. You just got to tell them, guys. I would just be again. And David will tell you this because he and I have done plenty of deals in our patron leagues. It's like I'm always very honest, and so is he. I'm going to be very honest. It's like, what is a championship worth? What is the wide receiver worth? The wide receiver 5 on the season worth? I understand he's in his 30s. I understand that he's not here for a long time. But you know what? Winning championships are a good time. Just have that conversation. Like, how can we make this work? How can we make this productive? But yes, if you're not contending, be like David. Get out there and start, moving guys like Davante Adams. I was wrong on Davante Adams. I thought I was wrong on Rome Odunze. Remember my bold prediction? He was going to finish outside the top 24 wide receivers, and he started off like gangbusters, and then he's come back to earth. Guess what? He's not a top 24 wide receiver. So I was wrong about the Davante Adams take. So far, through 13 weeks, going into 14, I've been very right about Rome Odunze. So yes, David, I am in total agreement. And then David threw in with especially how bad this 26 running back class is. Yeah, I do not like this 2026 class at all. Again, shout out to Jeremiah Retzleff. He's putting together, we've got 80 names of upcoming rookies in this class already that we have ranked at Player Profiler. I need to figure out where that's at, but if you go to Player Profiler, that's where it's at. You'll love it. So I do want to bear with me. Not going to be as unprofessional as last week's show where it was just me and Jerry. So my boy Diddy, not that Diddy, but Matt, he said, are you playing Amon-Ra St. Brown tonight? Yeah, I am. First of all, he is tougher than an old boot, and he's played injured before, and I'm a start your studs guy. If you're not in playoff contention, it really doesn't matter. If this team's a rebuilder, you just hope he doesn't play so he doesn't get further injured. But given that Dallas and Detroit are battling for the same playoff spots, I think Amon-Ra plays, and I think they feed him. Another question, Nathan, start Mahomes or Stroud this week? I would have to look and see who Houston's playing, but they're playing each other. Yeah, I think Kansas City's pass defense is low-key better than advertised. And although the Houston matchup is tough, let's be honest, guys, if you were running a business and your business was getting eyeballs on a product and your most famous star was a guy named Patrick Mahomes, would you rather have him in the playoffs or would you rather have the Houston Texans in the playoffs? Not saying Houston's like the third largest TV market in the country, but Patrick Mahomes brings eyeballs. Travis Kelce potentially retiring before he gets married to Taylor Swift brings eyeballs. Not saying the league would rig it. This is not the NBA. Not saying I'm still going with Patty Mahomes. He's been having a nice season, and he's going to have to. And that was it. I got through all the questions that I saw in the chat, at least in the last little bit. There you go. Another hour, but you're ahead. You're ahead. Your league mates are behind. You're ahead. You know the first of all, you know the future. You know where all of the big name free agents are going. You know the names we're looking for. You need to start plotting. You need to start, plotting. You need to start mixing it up. And these are names that don't set off radars. These are names that, like, people, if they're not contending or not starting, the names that I mentioned throughout this show, and they're very similar to the names that I mentioned 2 weeks ago, they don't set off a lot of radars in your fellow GM's minds because they don't listen to the Dynasty WarZone. They're not super proactive like us. They're thinking about the fantasy playoffs. Dude, our rosters are locked. We know who we got. We know who we're going to get. We're worried about 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 60 days from now. We're talking about the combine. Holy shit. How about that? 90 days from now, we're talking about free agency, but not at the Dynasty WarZone. We're talking about it right now. right now on this very show. So thank you for all the people who watched. I know the Thursday night game, this should be a good game, a good Thursday night game between the Cowboys and the Lions. I got to root Lions because that's what my co-host would want me to do, but should be a great game. And make sure your lineups are set and all that other happy horse shit people would tell you. But I don't know if Jerry will be back next week, but if he's not, I'm gonna be proactive. I'm going to ask him earlier in the week, and if he's not, I'm going to try to get one of my homies, a Matty Keywoom, a Theo Grimminger, Evan Ringler. I'll try to get someone on here with me so it's not just me flapping my gums for an hour by myself. But remember, head over to Fast Draft, use the promo code WarZone, get in the action, because if you lose in Week 15 and you're out of the fantasy playoffs, you can still play Fast Draft 16, 17, 18. No one's told me, but I have an inkling there'll be some Fast Draft playoff games going on as well. And patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. Come hang out. It's the group chat, it's answers, and it's $5 a month. It's not even a good cup of coffee these days, but it's great Dynasty advice. Hope to see you over there, patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. And even though Jerry's not here, I'll say it on behalf of Jerry and on behalf of me. Remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. See you guys next week. Have a good week 14.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.